Hello and welcome to Board Game Gumbo. Today we're unboxing City Builder, The Ancient World by Inside Up Games. So City Builder is a game for 1 to 4 players that plays in 30 to 60 minutes. And aside from having a solo version, there is both competitive and a cooperative way to play this game. I'm just going to be talking about the competitive version because I'm not particularly familiar with the other ones. But City Builder is a pretty straightforward tile laying game. Each player is going to have one of these town squares, and they will be gaining city tiles and laying them alongside their town squares to build up their city, both for citizens, commoners, and nobles, as well as potentially to build monuments that will give them extra scoring at the end of the game. One of the interesting wrinkles that this game uses are these collaborative settler boards. So between you and the player, both to your right and immediate left, there will be one of these boards, and you will be gaining workers or settlers as you build out your city and meet the specific requirements for them. Every time you gain one of these settlers, they will score you a certain number of points, as you can see over here, with the last settler on a board being unable to be picked up because it's going to determine what side is your opponent's and which side is yours. So for instance, if this green commoner here was the only spot left, the only meeple left in that column to the right here, you wouldn't actually be able to place it because that's going to tell you that your opponent scored the 2 and the 1, and then you scored the rest of these. Turn structure is really pretty simple. So you will add a tile to the board, and then you will gain any settlers that you have met requirements for. So each settler requires a landmark of their color. So the green settler requires the green landmark, and then 1 additional landmark in the area, while the nobles require 2 of their color and 1 additional. The purple settlers are the most picky. The purple commoner requires 3 of different colored landmarks, and then the purple noble requires all 4 landmarks in all 4 colors. Also, as you place out your tiles here, you'll be creating areas through the checkered spots on the board, and those will be your different zones for placing your settlers or for building your monuments. Once you've placed the tile and gained any settlers that you want, which is not mandatory, you can leave spots empty. Then you have the option to build monuments. Again, you have to meet certain requirements to build specific monuments. And then you have essentially an upkeep phase, which consists of you drawing back to your hand size. Here we have the rules for the cooperative mode, if you're interested. And then finally, the solo mode on the back of the rulebook. So we're going to have quite a bit of punchboard in here because all those tiles have to come from somewhere. So we have starting tiles, as you can see here. And I'll show you the tiles themselves. So they have these roads, and these roads are going to determine how your city is built. So for instance, if I were to put these 2 tiles together like that, I've created one area confined by these roads. That area is now able to be settled by anything that I could put in there. You have the monuments themselves down here. And these, I think, have really great artwork. They're not quite historical. They're a little bit comical in a way, but I really do like the artwork that they selected for these different tiles. And then on the back, you'll see what exactly it takes to build that. So to build the fountain, you must be adjacent to 3 or more populated districts that also contain lakes. And then the Colosseum, when built, immediately add 2 settlers to each of your tracks, 1 at a time. You can see that it requires 2 green landmarks. And then the Praetorium requires 2 landmarks that are the same color, because you see the equal sign. And it says this city must have 5 or more settlers of the same color. We have more pieces here. So we have our starting town squares. Each player will get 1 of these randomly to sort of be the center of their city. We also have some punch outs here for dividers. So they include storage for the tiles themselves. And then they also include little dividers so that you can use the storage while you're playing the game. And I'll show you how that works when we get to the end of the video. So more of the same here, starting locations, monuments, and our different city tiles. Again, more of the same, and more of the artwork from these monument tiles, which again, I quite like. The artwork in general is very nice. I mean, the tiles themselves are practical. They have good coloration. You can distinguish between the different monuments, even if you do have trouble with the color. The roadways are nice and easy to recognize. Just the graphic design and the layout was very well chosen. So we do have a bag here. This will be for our meeples. And then we have the sort of the scoring boards that'll go between players. So you can see that there's 3 columns. Commoners will go in the outside columns, and then you'll have in the inside column, you'll have a row of nobles. And again, these are all going to be the same, but they're going to be placed in between players. So you'll use a certain number of them depending on the number of players. All of our meeples are in here. So we have our commoners, which are the smaller meeples, little houses. And then, of course, the nobles got to be a little bit fancier. They got the villas. Let's see what else we have. We have, looks like just some rules cards here to explain what you do on your turn, and then to explain what the different settlers require to be placed into an area. So just little rules reminder cards. And then finally, we have some scoring pads. Good number of scoring pads. Pretty straightforward, but again, just nice to have. You don't realize how nice it is to have a scorecard until you play a game that doesn't have a scorecard. So a nice little addition. I'll be back in just a minute to explain how this little divider works with our tiles. So now we got everything back in the box, and you can see how this little tray holds all of our tiles, but it does more than that. It's not just for organization, which obviously is really nice to see in a game, but it also facilitates gameplay. So first of all, you've got little reminders on these separators about how many tiles you're going to use during a game. So if you're playing with 2 players, you're going to use 30 tiles, 3 players, 45, and 4 players, 60. So that's just something to make it a little bit easier to set the game up. Now, while you're playing, you will actually occasionally discard tiles. You'll have 3 tiles in your hand and you have to play one on your turn, but after you've played your tile, you can actually discard 1 or both tiles that are now left in your hand, and afterwards you're going to draw back up to 3. So if you want to get rid of tiles that you don't think are going to help you, you can discard them. And again, that's where these separators come in, because those discarded tiles are going to be placed out of the game, at least until the stack is empty, and then you will reshuffle with the discard pile. So it creates just a little divider so you know which ones have already been discarded. And I really like this. It's an easy solution to a problem, but it's not just for storage. It also helps facilitate gameplay. And I like that. It's a very clever idea, and I'm glad they included that. As well, as you can see, The rest of the organizer holds everything really nicely, except for maybe these cards that are sliding around a bit. But there's also room to spare. So that's it. That's everything you get in a copy of City Builder Ancient World from Inside Up Games.